My sister, 30 female, wants to reconnect after making my 27 male life a misery. My wife, 29 female, is pushing me to make amends. I am the youngest of 4 children. Sisters 36, 34, 30, and me 27. My 30-year-old sister Lisa physically and emotionally abused me. She would pick on me at school to curry favor with her classmates. It started with her calling me names and then escalated by the 5th grade. She pants me in front of a group of girls, exposing my private bits to a group of female friends. While I was young, she would beat me up on more than one occasion. She would leave me bloody when I was bigger than her, and when she couldn't physically overpower me, she began spreading horrible rumors, including things about my purported homosexuality, bestiality, and sexual deviance. She was being really mean to me, but whenever I tried to tell the teachers about it, they didn't believe me. They thought I was making the whole thing up just because my sister gets really good grades in school. And yeah, I also get good grades, but that didn't seem to matter to them. The person in charge of discipline at school, who you'd think would take this seriously, also took her side. At home, it was like my sister was a totally different person. She acted all sweet and innocent in front of our parents, pretending to cry and saying I was the one being mean. It was super frustrating because she was also really nice to me in front of them, making it look like I was the problem. But here's the cool part. My parents saw through her act. They knew something wasn't right, and even though they couldn't get the school to see what was happening, they did something about it. They decided to move me to another school so I wouldn't have to be around her all the time, which was a huge relief. They tried to get the school to understand and help, but the school officials were no help at all. They just didn't see what was going on right under their noses. So to make sure my sister and I kept our distance even at home, my parents made sure we stayed in different parts of the house. They even sent my sister to therapy to try and get to the bottom of things, but she never admitted to any of the mean stuff she did. Even with all this, my parents thought it was best for me to go to a different school in the same city just to get away from all the drama. Because of all the mean stuff my sister did and said about me, I felt really uncomfortable bringing friends over to our house. It was like she had a radar for this and would immediately start telling them all these embarrassing things about me, which wasn't cool at all. My sister was super popular at school, kind of like a celebrity, and people listened to her. They would come up to me and ask about the crazy or embarrassing things she said I did over the weekend, which made things even worse. If I ever wore a t-shirt to school, trying to just be normal and fit in, she'd twist it around and tell everyone I was trying to be something I'm not. Then those people would treat me even worse, thinking they had a reason to be mean. But there's a silver lining. All of this happened before everyone was glued to their phones and social media. So when I finally got the chance to leave for university on the other side of the country, it was like stepping into a new world. For the first time, I could just be me without worrying about all that drama. My parents were really supportive and even got me a therapist to talk to while I was at university. It helped me start to work through a lot of the stuff I was feeling, like not being able to trust people easily, and feeling bad about how I look. Even though I've made a lot of progress since high school, I'm still dealing with some of these feelings. So after a while, my sister finally told the truth to a therapist and then to our family about how she treated me. Everyone was shocked, especially my older sisters. They had always thought I was just making stuff up about how she was treating me. They never really got involved or tried to stop her from being mean, so they never stood up for me either. Because of all this, I'm really close to my parents now, but when it comes to my sisters, I feel like I could live my life happily without seeing them again. My oldest sister, Sarah, and my other sisters have tried to make things right and fix our relationship, but honestly, I'm not too keen on the idea. Life has moved on for me. Last year, I got married to my amazing wife, Audrey. We finished our studies, I even went through law school, and started our new life working. Audrey and I chose to elope for our wedding. We kept it super simple, just inviting our parents for a quick ceremony, partly because of a funny situation where I forgot to be safe in a moment of spontaneity, which kind of sped up our decision to just go for it and get married. Fast forward a bit, and Audrey and I were blessed with a beautiful daughter, adding a new chapter to our lives. However, this development brought a new dilemma with my sisters, especially Lisa. They were trying to mend fences, not just for the sake of our past, but also because they wanted to be part of our daughter's life. One day, after a long day at work, I came home to find Audrey waiting for me at the dinner table with a serious look on her face. She was holding a letter from Lisa and wanted to read it herself before showing it to me, just in case it was filled with the same kind of drama we've been trying to move past. Lisa's letter was deep and revealing. She wrote about being a victim of abuse herself, something that happened outside of our family circle, which she hadn't shared before. She explained how this part of her life had negatively impacted her behavior towards me, and how it led to ruining my relationships with my sisters. Lisa had also taken a significant step by discussing all of this with our family first, hoping to clear the air before reaching out to me directly. Reading through the letter, I didn't feel much of anything at first, except maybe a bit of disdain. It's hard to just switch feelings off or on, even with such a heavy confession. So, my wife Audrey decided it would be a good idea for us to go see someone who could help us talk through some stuff together, kind of like a guide for tricky conversations. This person is called a therapist. We went there, and the therapist wanted to chat with just me alone for a bit. I ended up sharing a lot about the rough times I had because of things my sister did when we were younger. The therapist listened and gave some advice, but also said I should keep working on sorting through my feelings. To me, it kind of felt like they were just saying that to make me come back more and spend more money, you know? They also mentioned that I should try to forgive my sister for what she did, even if it doesn't mean we start hanging out like nothing happened. Now, Audrey thinks it's a good idea to kind of let bygones be bygones with my sister and suggests that we all meet up somewhere public, maybe a park, and even bring our little one along. I was like, no way. Because just thinking about being close to my sister makes me super stressed, and I don't want to end up losing my cool. Audrey didn't push me too much right then, but she's kind of been nudging me more and more to think about forgiving my sister. On top of that, my sisters have been trying to get in touch a lot more. They're sending emails, letters, and messages not just to me but through Audrey as well, trying to get us to talk and maybe patch things up. It's like they're really trying to reach out and fix things, but I'm just not sure I'm ready for that yet. Okay, so after getting yet another email from Lisa, I decided I had enough. I wrote her a very official letter, the kind that says, "Stop talking to me, my wife, and our kid, or I might have to take this to court." It's like telling someone, "Hey, this is serious, leave us alone," but in a way that's super formal and shows you mean business. After I did this, things at home got pretty tense. Audrey wasn't happy with how I handled things. In her eyes, my sister, despite everything, deserves a chance to say sorry directly to me. Audrey believes that Lisa, who's had her own tough times, should be allowed to make things right. Then something happened that made everything even more complicated. This weekend, I was just doing a normal errand, picking up some groceries for us. When I got back, I saw a car in our driveway that I didn't recognize. My heart sank a bit because I had a feeling I knew what was going on. And yep, I was right. When I walked in, my oldest sister was there. I saw red. I was so mad, not just because she was there, but because it felt like my boundaries didn't matter. I told her and her husband that they had to leave, right then and there. It's like, I feel I have every right to decide who I want in my life and who I don't, especially after everything that's happened. But now, there's this big mess with Audrey being upset and my sister showing up uninvited. It's a lot to deal with. I was really, really upset with Audrey because she did something huge without telling me first. She let my sister come over to our house, knowing all the bad history there. It was like planning a surprise party that you never wanted. So, I got super mad and we ended up having a big argument. I was so upset that I even said something really serious, like warning her that I might think about us not being together anymore if she ever did something like that again without telling me. Audrey felt sorry about it, but I was still so angry that I couldn't shake it off. I ended up spending the whole weekend kind of moping around and keeping to myself, working on stuff in the basement just to stay busy and keep my mind off things. You know, when you're so mad you just want to be alone? That was me. And here's the thing. I'm feeling super stuck. It feels like everyone around me is trying to push me in one direction, telling me I should forgive my sister and just get over it. But deep down, I really don't want to forgive her. It's like if someone broke your favorite game or toy on purpose and then everyone said you should just be okay with it. It's hard, and I'm not sure what the best move is right now. Now, for the top of comments before reading the update, my wife thinks that I should forgive and that she and my sister should meet at a public location with the baby. Your wife is wrong. If you aren't comfortable, your sister does not see your baby, and your sister is only allowed into your life on your terms. I could write a book on the screwed-up relationship my husband and sister-in-law have. She is a two-faced, horrible person who has the entire world eating out of her hand. No one believed she could do the things that she's done, and she's flipped the narrative to make herself the victim. She isn't. She tried to be all pals once. She has kids so that her kids can play together. Nope. Her husband has her on Facebook as a family compromise, but they haven't spoken in years and that woman does not get to see her kids. Your wife needs to learn boundaries. What she did was 1000% not okay. I'm sure Audrey was doing it from a good place, but I can't imagine a more fucked up approach. She came to apologize without any qualifications and said that she was sorry, but I really cannot understand how she felt that would work. My sister and her husband have these perplexed looks on their face, and my sister's husband tried to make personal offense. I mean, it was such a bizarre situation. Your wife is buying into the mentality that family trumps all. I used to be the same myself after my first pregnancy announcement. I tried to mend fences. Husband said he wasn't okay with it, but I could go ahead on my own. It was a stupid choice that I immediately regretted. It became so clear that she had no problems with what she had done. In fact, using the opening I gave her to try to convince me my own memories were false. It was clear all she wanted was access to my kids and the picture-perfect appearance for Facebook. I used to be your wife. I thought we needed her to be a family and to keep everyone happy. I know it kills my mother-in-law. She will never see her grandkids all together. But we don't. We are happier without her, even if she's good. I have peace of mind, knowing that woman has no influence or place in our lives. Explain to your wife again how much damage your sister has done. And then, even if you choose to forgive her for your own peace, you do not want her in your lives. Any attempts to reach out by your wife will be regarded as betrayal. My wife is also very much of the mentality that we should try and create a big family for our daughter, which I'm not too worried about. My parents have been good at keeping the peace and staying out of the whole fight. My wife, as much as I love her, can be really naive. Now for the updates. Well, I don't know where to begin. A little bit ago, I shared some stuff online about a big argument I had with my wife, Audrey. People gave a lot of advice and comments on it. Fast forward to recently, I decided to sit down and chat with Audrey because, honestly, I was still pretty steamed about everything that went down. So, we start talking, and out of nowhere, Audrey starts saying sorry and bringing up stuff that sounded super familiar, like exactly the kind of things people online were saying to me. Then she drops this bombshell. She had been looking up advice for our situation online, stumbled upon my post, yep, the one I thought was my secret venting session, and realized it was me talking about us. Thankfully, I was smart enough to use a fake name when I posted, so my secret identity was still safe. We had a real talk about everything. Audrey was really upset and ended up crying, and I was there munching on my snack, feeling a mix of being glad she understood, but also a bit bummed out. I was looking forward to having this big, dramatic moment where I could lay it all out there, but the conversation ended up being more of a quiet, emotional one, instead of the dramatic showdown I had in my head. So during our talk, Audrey shared something pretty personal that added a whole new layer to why she was so upset. She told me about her aunt, someone her own mom doesn't talk to anymore. Audrey really didn't want our situation to turn into something like that, where we just cut family members out and never speak to them again. That's a big part of why she got so emotional and why she was apologizing. She was scared our family could end up divided like hers. But here's where things got even more complicated. While we were talking about all this, Audrey mentioned something about meeting up with my sisters. At first, I thought she meant the unexpected visit at our house, but then I realized she meant something else. So I asked her to explain a bit more about what she meant by meeting my sisters. Turns out, Audrey had actually met up with my sisters before, all except for Lisa. And get this, her school is right near where my sister works. I had no idea about any of this. They had been grabbing coffee and lunch together a few times, and my middle sister even joined them once. This was all news to me, and it added a whole new twist to the story. So, there I was, finding out something that totally blew my lid off again. It's about how my wife, Audrey, didn't just run into my oldest sister by accident. Nope. Turns out my oldest sister knew exactly who Audrey was when they bumped into each other. How? Well, my mom had given my sister pictures of Audrey, so she recognized her right away and went up to say hi. You can probably guess how I felt about that. Betrayed, mad, you name it. So I did what I usually do when I'm fuming. I headed straight to my man cave. That's my chill zone in the basement where I can hang out, maybe smoke a cigar, and just try to cool down with some friends over. After I managed to simmer down a bit, I went back to talk to Audrey. And guess what? She tried to smooth things over by ordering some Chinese food, thinking it might help calm things down. And believe it or not, it kind of worked. We ended up talking more, and I was straight up with her. I told her if anything like this happened again, I'd really have to rethink our whole marriage situation. Then, she started to spill the whole story. And let me tell you, it was a lot to take in. Lisa's actions have really thrown everything into chaos. She made some pretty serious and untrue claims about my middle sister's husband, saying things that were totally false, and calling him things he's not. Then things got even more out of hand when she hurt my youngest nephew. He was just being a typical little kid making noise and watching TV when Lisa decided to react way too harshly by front kicking him. I remember too well that kicking was something Lisa often did. It was like her go-to move for dealing with things, which is just not okay. After she kicked my nephew, my sister's husband didn't let it slide. He stepped in immediately, and things escalated to the point where my mom had to call the police. The police came, and because of what happened, Lisa was taken away for a psychological evaluation. Instead of pressing criminal charges against her, The decision was made for her to spend some time in a psychiatric facility to get the help she clearly needs. For now, she's not allowed to be in contact with any of us, which is probably for the best, given everything that's happened. It's a lot to process, and it's really sad to see how one person's actions can affect so many people around them. Learning that Lisa was diagnosed with several mental health issues wasn't exactly a surprise to me. I've always made it super clear to my parents that I don't want to hear anything about Lisa. No news, no updates, nothing. So I didn't know about her condition until now. But yeah, now it's out in the open. My sister has serious mental health problems, and everyone in the family is aware of it. What really got to me, though, was finding out that Audrey knew about the whole situation and still thought it was a good idea for me to try and patch things up with Lisa. The idea of my child being anywhere near Lisa? Absolutely not happening. I made it crystal clear to Audrey that Lisa is off the table for discussions. It's not happening. She's too unpredictable, and I'm not convinced by any means that her actions are just an act. She's shown herself to be really dangerous, and there's no way I'm going to risk it. So I told Audrey straight up, we need to drop the whole Lisa topic. It's a dead end, and I'm not budging on this. It's too risky, and my priority is keeping our family safe and away from any potential harm Lisa could cause. Emily. She recognized the tough battles my oldest sister had to fight, grappling with the reality that for the sake of her husband and kids' safety, they needed to keep their distance from Lisa. The rule became clear. Lisa could only be present at family events if they were in public spaces with plenty of people around, essentially to ensure there were witnesses to her behavior. She was outright banned from visiting their home as well as my parents, and any interaction had to happen away from private settings. Direct contact with the children or her brother-in-law was completely off limits. My middle sister's situation highlighted just how destructive Lisa's influence could be. Her husband was dragged through the mud, accused of things he never did, all thanks to Lisa's capacity to weave a believable but entirely fictitious narrative. This nearly led to my sister and her husband getting divorced. He staunchly defended his innocence throughout the ordeal. The persuasive nature of Lisa's storytelling initially had people doubting, thinking maybe there was an affair. However, Lisa's downfall was in the details. Her story, though initially convincing, started to crumble when she couldn't substantiate her claims with any real evidence, which eventually helped clear my brother-in-law's name and showed everyone just how far from reality Lisa's accusations were. Once the full extent of Lisa's actions came to light and the damage she caused within the family became undeniable, there was a collective move to protect everyone involved. The husbands of my sisters took firm stands, prohibiting Lisa from visiting their homes or having any contact with their children. Lisa ended up living on her own, getting the help she needed through regular therapy sessions. These developments validated my long-standing concerns and reactions toward her, which some had previously questioned or misunderstood. In the aftermath, as the dust settled and the truth was laid bare, my sisters expressed a desire to repair the bridges that had been burned. However, I was far from eager to jump into any reconciliation. I felt detached and hesitant about reopening old wounds or revisiting past turmoil. It was during this time of uncertainty and reluctance on my part that my sisters turned their attention to Audrey, seeing her as perhaps a more approachable means to mend fences. My mother, sensing the delicacy of the situation and perhaps the potential for further conflict or misunderstanding, suggested a more cautious approach. She believed that if there was to be any kind of meeting or attempt at reconciliation, it should be offered openly without pressure, allowing me the space to make my own decision. This suggestion from my mother resonated with me. It felt like a more respectful and less invasive way to handle the delicate dynamics at play. Given the choice, I would have preferred this approach, one that acknowledged the complexities of the situation and my autonomy in navigating them. Despite my hesitations and the complex feelings swirling around this family saga, Audrey nudged me towards a meeting with my sisters. She believed it might pave the way for some healing, or at least open a channel for communication. Reluctantly, I agreed to her proposal, but I laid down my conditions. Audrey would stay out of it, and I wanted the meeting to be expectation-free. We decided on a local pub as the meeting spot, a place I was familiar with, and I planned to get there an hour early to settle in and maybe calm my nerves with a pint or two. The day of the meeting, a Saturday afternoon, I found myself sitting in the pub with a couple of pints already down, the weight of the upcoming conversation making my stomach churn. My sisters arrived, and we kicked things off with what can best be described as awkward small talk. It wasn't long before I noticed their husbands were also there, discreetly sitting at another table. In a move that surprised even myself, I invited them over to join us. It seemed like if we were going to do this, we might as well all be in it together. As we sat together, the atmosphere slowly shifted. My sisters brought out photos of their families, sharing updates and stories about what everyone was up to. They also mentioned how proud they were of me for pursuing my career in law. The conversation, while initially tense, started to thaw as we caught up on each other's lives. It was a small step, perhaps, but it was a step nonetheless towards understanding and, maybe, reconciliation. Right when I was gearing up for what felt like a scene straight out of a movie, where I'd finally get to express all my pent-up feelings, my middle sister beat me to the punch. She started apologizing like there was no tomorrow, and my oldest sister and her husband joined in. Her husband even took my hand, looking me in the eyes to express his regret. There I was, all prepared for a grand moment of catharsis, and suddenly it was like the script had been flipped without me knowing. My spotlight moment was snatched away, leaving me to process everything on the fly. So I found solace in my pint glass, the apologies and confessions from my sisters and brother-in-law blending into a continuous loop of, "We're sorry," and "Lisa's the worst." They acknowledged the pain and turmoil Lisa caused, not just to me but to the whole family, and how they now understood the impact it had on my childhood. Hours slipped by, morphing the afternoon into evening as we navigated through years of unresolved issues. In a moment of what I can only describe as tipsy inspiration, I suggested we take a group photo to send to our parents. It dawned on me that they hadn't seen all their children together in such a long time. Of course, in the state I was in, it didn't occur to me to think through the potential repercussions of this idea. It seemed like a good, heartfelt gesture at the time, but looking back, I can't help but wonder if drunk me hadn't quite thought everything through. The photo we took, filled with smiles and a rare moment of unity, ended up being a bigger deal than I anticipated. My parents were overjoyed to see us all together after so long, and they quickly shared this milestone with Audrey. My phone started buzzing with calls from her voice filled with a mix of excitement and tears in the messages she left. Despite my lingering frustration with her, it was clear this picture struck a chord. Then, buoyed by the spirits and the unexpected warmth of the evening, an idea was floated. A combined birthday bash and family reunion next month, hosted by my sisters. In my less than sober state, I agreed, much to my later regret. This news spread like wildfire, reaching my parents and Audrey, who were both stunned and delighted by the sudden turn of events. The next morning, my feelings were a mix of a hangover and dread for what I had agreed to. The thought of a family gathering, especially after all the tension and drama, was less than appealing. Yet the sight of my parents' happiness, the possibility of bridging the gaps between us, made me pause. It dawned on me that my persistent anger, while justified, was not only weighing me down, but also casting a shadow over my family. Acknowledging this, I began to consider the upcoming event not as a concession, but as an opportunity. Perhaps it was time to start loosening the grip on my resentment, not for my sake, but for the people I care about. The prospect of reconnecting with my family, with all its complexities and challenges, suddenly seemed like a path worth exploring. If nothing else, it could be a step towards healing for both myself and my family. As the evening wound down, and we were all getting ready to head our separate ways, there was one lingering question that I just couldn't shake off. Why hadn't they believed me in the past? When I put this question to them, the answer I got was kind of a wake-up call for everyone. It boiled down to Lisa's ability to weave tales so convincingly that it muddied the waters. She had this knack for storytelling that made it hard to see who was really telling the truth, and more often than not, I ended up being the one who was blamed. I opened up to them about how the whole ordeal with Lisa didn't just leave me with bad memories. It left scars that affected how I trust people, impacting my personal life deeply. Hearing this, my sisters became visibly emotional and offered more apologies. Yet despite their good intentions, their apologies didn't bring me the sense of closure or happiness they might have hoped for. It was a complex mix of feelings, none of which could be neatly resolved with just a few tears and sorries. Meanwhile, Audrey has been riding a wave of happiness, thrilled by the prospect of mending family ties. My mom also reached out, acknowledging that while this gathering and the ensuing conversation were positive steps, she understood that this was just the beginning of a long and potentially difficult journey towards healing. The idea of her family coming back together after all these years of tension and distance was something that had been weighing on her heavily. It was a lot to process. The evening didn't magically fix everything, but it cracked open a door that had been shut tight for a long time. There's a long road ahead, filled with its share of challenges and uncomfortable truths, but also, perhaps, the chance for something resembling peace. So I guess I made everyone happy. I'm not thrilled getting the answers I wanted didn't feel as good as I thought it would be. But I guess there is a weight lifted, and the feeling that people know I wasn't crazy or a liar or wrong makes me feel better.